whether or not we need, and I asked that, we need an opinion of whether or not we can do this so that we don't get in trouble. Those ballots should have been kept to the side until we found out of what to do, until we got an opinion from the state elections board or from the Secretary of State or from a judge or from whoever. But they should have been kept aside. They should not have been thrown into the pool of absentee ballots until we had a legal opinion on them. But it's too late now. They've already been thrown into the pool. There's nothing that we can pull them back out with. One of the reasons why I don't like processing absentee ballots this early in the process. So I'm going to ask, in order for time constraints, I'm going to ask for any type of motion.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
I motion that we do set up all the AIP locations under the provisions set in this letter to be except absentee by mail ballots. And we've heard the discussion and all that.
Okay, we've already had discussion.
Yeah, but it has to follow the protocol as outlined in this letter. And if we can't do it, then we can't establish them. That's my feeling about that.
Mr. Day, would you want to amend your motion so as to read that we have absentee by mail ballots received only by approved drop-box locations and or an election office?
Well, that's the way it is now. That's the way it is now.
But not at any other location.
No, but what we're dealing with is the locations where they are accepting them and they don't have drive-by. So, no, I appreciate the remark, but I'm not gonna accept that as an amendment. I think that doesn't deal with the issue at hand.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Anthony, you want to jump in?
No, of course it's right.
We currently, Kelvin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the process at the spot where there is a drop box, the voter has the option of either taking it to the drop box. We, as I think you mentioned earlier, we refer them to their drop box, but they do have the option of returning at those spots to a registrar. Right. So the question is, I don't know how that motion was worded.
Well, I think
At the
that's
drop box.
redundant. That's redundant
At
to
the
me.
Dropbox location, are we still accepting?
I would say this in order just to make things easy for folks, that this is only at the locations that do not have drop boxes, and that the ABM ballots, absentee by mail ballots, are to be deposited only in the drop box at the locations that have drop boxes. And
You
that
want me
would
to
make
read
it
the
clear.
ones that do not have drop boxes?
Yeah.
Do you want to read it?
Just clarify that.
He's gonna repeat it.
Okay.
Can you repeat it?
Oh, yeah. My motion is to set up the protocol as described in this letter from the state election board to receive absentee by mail at the absentee in person locations that do not have drop boxes. And that protocol is specified in this letter, and I believe those locations are.
I have them.
Okay,
Bogan Park, Gas South, Hudgens Center, Mountain Park Activity Building, the Aquatic Center, Rhodes Jordan Recreation Center, Shorty Howell Park Activity Building. Those do not have drop boxes. So the motion is made that, Mr. Day has made the motion and, Dr. Taylor has seconded the motion that any location now that does not have a drop box will be able to have paper absentee by mail ballots delivered to the registrar on site. Is that basically?
yeah, following the code, following the recommendations as specified in state election board letter October 26, 2022 to you and Zach
Exactly.
Manifold.
Right. So basically it says the practice of having poll managers accept absentee at early voting locations presents a risk, and it can establish additional locations to receive absentee ballots. So Melanie, do you think we have to say that all, since it says we must establish additional locations to receive absentee ballots, that we have to say all locations, even the ones with the drop box?
So this letter, so
It's the last paragraph on the first page. See? Georgia law permits county board of
Right,
registrars
right.
to establish
establish
additional
additional
locations to receive
So,
absentee ballots.
I've heard Mr. Day's motion as a motion to establish as additional places of registration for the purposes of receiving absentee ballot mail applications, all advanced voting locations that do not currently have drop boxes. That's what I understood the motion to be.
Correct, but do we have to also vote and say that the ones with drop boxes can accept?
I don't think you have to establish any more than you want to establish.
Like I said, additional, so.
Okay, so does that mean that the ones that do have drop boxes, I'm just extrapolating, the ones that do have drop boxes cannot accept by hand, the ballot must go to the drop box?
That would be my, if that
Would
is
that be your
carried, that would be
interpretation?
my understanding of what
I-
that
I
one
would
would be.
want that to.
If that motion carries, that would be my understanding.
It's a drop box.
Okay,
And
so-
one clarification, I think you actually accidentally said absentee by mail application. You did not say.
Oh, ballot.
You did not say
Sorry,
ballot.
so, do you want me to say it again?
No, we got it.
I just noticed you said
We
application,
got it.
but not ballot.
So do you wanna amend it to say that if there is a drop box, the paper ballot has to go into the drop
I
box?
thought I already did.
Okay, so it's been amended that any location that has a drop box, the registrar cannot accept the paper ballot, they have to be directed to the drop box.
As a matter of convenience for the
All right.
operation of the poll.
Okay, there's a motion, and you seconded that one?
It's, yeah, the first motion.
Yeah.
Now it sounds
Well,
like it was another one.
it's amended,
To
the
say
first
not.
motion is to allow
Okay.
AIP locations that do not have drop boxes to be considered as additional locations to receive absentee ballots.
Right.
And if there is an AIP location with a drop box, the voter will be directed to the drop box, and the, poll officials will not accept it, they have to go into the drop box.
Madam Chair, can I
Is that what
suggest
we
that
were
perhaps
talking-
you do two separate motions just to make it clear?
Oh, sure, yes, okay, there's a motion on the table.
Just a suggestion, Mr. Day.
I think
Okay, that's fine, but I did want to ask a question of the council. Does this affect the legality of it that we're not doing it across all 11?
No, because you're establishing them.
Okay.
That's the key, you're establishing the places where it can happen, and the second motion will establish the places that it cannot.
Okay.
If it's passed, the first motion will establish the places that it can happen. And if you then go on to the, obviously,
On to
if
the
you don't-
amendments.
if the first motion fails, then you probably wouldn't
It's a moot
discuss the
point.
second motion, but if the first motion passes, you would then pick up a second motion to definitively say that poll workers, poll managers should not accept absentee ballot returns,
Yeah.
voted ballots at any of the locations that have a drop box.
Right, it should go to the drop box.
Right.
Okay,
And this
Is that-
motion clearly only applies to those locations for this early period, right? Not any longer, right? Just
right,
that-
we do not allow poll workers or managers to accept a paper absentee ballot on election day.
But Mr. Rodriguez raises an issue, if I can say, that I want the board are also thinking about as they have these discussions. It's clear that the board is discussing additional locations, as in not the office, as in not the main office. But I think it's helpful for the board to kind of be aware, because I think that's the practice, that staff are accepting absentee ballot envelope, completed ballots at the office.
Well, that's because that's where the registrar's office is.
And that is something that will continue. I just wanted for staff's benefit to have that.
Yeah,
We don't have to
that's-
explicitly state that.
No, that's stated in
Right, that's
code.
21, 2, 3, and 5, and is that gonna continue?
Yeah, we can't change code.
Okay.
We're not legislators, we're not the governor
I think you're
signing.
just saying because there's a Dropbox there.
Cause there's a Dropbox there.
Oh, but then you say.
But after Friday though, after Friday week, you can still
The
accept.
Dropbox is
It's
locked.
gone.
Do we
The Dropbox is
accept
gone.
absentee ballots after
Yeah,
the
up to-
close of the
This is
Dropbox?
the election
Absolutely.
At the main
Well, I
office
know
until 7 p.m.
we accept them, from the mailman.
No,
And this is actually what I said to the state when they were trying to figure this out, is I was like, whatever you do, people use Monday and Tuesday to drop off at our office, it's very important. We have a lot of people that drop off.
Right,
Monday.
right, because it wouldn't get there by mail, alright,
Yeah,
so,
you remember, Alice, they've
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
come Monday and Tuesday.
Exactly,
But
right.
cut off at 7.
right, because that is the registrar's office.
So with regard, and please forgive me for intervening.
No
but
problem.
With
That's fine.
regard to that first motion, my colleague here has made a suggestion that I think I wanna offer to the board, that you explicitly say that that's for the remainder of this election cycle, that you're designating these specific advanced voting locations as places to receive absentee ballots
From here
for
forward.
this election cycle.
Through
For
the
this
runoff,
election
yeah.
cycle, yes.
So I think it would be helpful to say, so
Yes.
this would apply
For this
November
election cycle,
and potential December runoffs,
yes.
but I think that it would be helpful to have that in the motion.
So we're gonna have to do it
Okay.
each election cycle?
I think so, I
Yes.
think so.
Well, I think the
Just
law
like
says
AIP.
we need
I
to
think so.
establish AIP
In the same
every
way-
single election
agree.
year,
I think
and
I
so we should have to establish this also every single
As you
election
do
year.
establish the drop-off.
Exactly,
Okay, yes, I do.
as we establish where they are, and the law could change in the future,
Absolutely.
so we don't know that. Okay, there's a motion on the floor, did you second?
I second that first motion.
The motion to put
The motion
the
To
ADM
establish a
acceptance.
process that all AIP locations,
That do
to
not
be
have
saved
drop
without
boxes
a drop box.
Right.
Except absentee ballots.
during this election
During this
cycle.
election cycle,
Okay,
including the runoff.
and that was your second, well, that's the election cycle.
Yeah.
All right, we don't need any more discussion? No? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. I say no.
He's already voted.
Did you vote no? I didn't hear you, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, he said no.
Oh, you
No,
didn't
he
say
did
no?
not.
I said abstain.
You're gonna abstain, okay.
You
So
changed your
it,
vote.
it's going to pass, there's 3 ayes. So it passes. All right,
Next one.
Oh, the second
the
motion.
second
The
second motion is, we have another motion that we have to cover for the office and for the locations with drop boxes currently.
Well, the motion, if we have to include the office will remain as always to receive hand-delivered absentee by mail ballots up till 2 p.m.,
7
2
p.m.
p.m., 7 p.m. I'm
7
sorry,
p.m. on
7
Tuesday.
p.m. on Tuesday. And all locations that have drop boxes will not have the
Hold work.
poll workers set up, the registrar set up to receive by hand absentee by mail ballots.
That would be directed to the
That
drop box.
they will be directed to the drop box.
Does that make sense, Diane? Okay,
Okay.
so there's a motion to allow the headquarters to continue to collect absentee by mails until 7 p.m. on Tuesday, which is
Election.
historic, on election day, which is historically what we always did. You wanna make that as a separate motion?
If it.
Let's make that as a
All right,
separate motion.
let's do that. I move that we continue, as historic practice has allowed, that we receive absentee by mail ballots delivered by hand to the elections, the main elections office, up to 7 p.m. on Tuesday election night. That's the
Okay.
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we need any discussion? Without discussion, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Without opposition, that's the way it's gonna be.
Okay, now.
Okay, now
third-
another one.
the
Go
third
ahead.
motion-
Third motion.
Third motion is that any absentee by mail, any absentee in-person voting location, advanced voting location that has a drop box will have the poll workers direct all absentee by mail ballots to the drop boxes
Exactly.
and no exclusions.
Do we have,
Is that clear? Okay, help me out here then, George, how would you like for me to say it? Okay, at all advanced voting locations
with
that-
drop box?
with drop boxes, absentee by mail ballots can be delivered only to those drop boxes,
Okay,
correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
do we have a second for that? I thought maybe Anthony, did you second that one before?
Not yet.
No, not yet, okay. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we need discussion on that?
Under the first motion, basically, where we basically said that.
No, the first motion said that if you don't have a drop box and it was passed, then the registrar on site, which is the poll manager, will be able to accept the paper absentee by mail ballot. This motion, then the second motion said that we will